Welcome back to Got No Control podcast. I am your host, Ronick. Before I choose my special guest today, I just want to invite you guys to head over to gotnocontrol.com, check out official merchandise, grab yourself a hoodie, a t-shirt, and so much more. This helps us to be a little bit more financially stable to bring in more content, travel, and do these podcast episodes and bring content to you guys. So make sure you check that out. Gotnocontrol.com. Today I'm in San Diego. It's a rainy day, but we're making the best out of it. And I'm sitting here with my special guest today, CROS. How you doing today, brother?
What up?
Hey, man, I'm happy to have you on today.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity to, stop by and, talk a little bit about the San Diego culture, that it's so rich in history and so much has been going on over here.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Always, brother. I just wanted to dive into a little bit about CROS. What part of San Diego are you originally from?
I grew up in Paradise Hills.
Okay.
So like kind of borderline Southeast San Diego, between Southeast and South Bay. So not too far from here.
Okay, and coming up in that environment of San Diego, would you say it was kind of more like the suburbs, or was it more like?
No, we were like kind of in the thick of things. I grew up in the 80s, so 83, 84, like hip hop starting to get popular. Yeah. Breaking was in, I started seeing all the different elements. If somebody wasn't trying to break, they were trying to pop. If they weren't popping, they were DJing. If they weren't DJing, they were doing graffiti.
Yeah.
So, and then MCs came in, you know what I mean? So like everybody kind of like gravitated towards some kind of art, you know what I mean? So it was super dope being around it, you know what I mean?
Would you say that those early like introductions to the culture came from movies, kind of like Beat Street type thing, or would you say it was more like on the street type vibe?
I mean, if you didn't see one of those movies or one of those documentaries, like Style Wars, Wild Style, I mean, if you didn't see one of those, then you seen the repercussions of people watching those, because people watched it, then they started doing it, participating, and then it got to the point where you just seen it everywhere, I mean, people don't really realize how big breaking got and how big hip hop. I mean, hip hop is huge still to this day, but back then I feel like breaking was like the introduction to a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? So
I can only imagine what it felt like to just be there as a child and like something new's coming in, like hip hop. Like,
yeah, I mean,
what is that type thing?
I mean, for me, it was just everything. I used to do judo when I was a little kid.
Okay.
So like when I was like 6 years old. So I had like older mentors that were like 19, 20 years old. One worked at Warehouse Records. So what he would do is like every week he would bring me a new record. And like these records were like, it's crazy because like, Kendrick's got the, the sample that he used. Like when I hear music, like my boy brought that record in. He brought Rappin' Duke. He brought all the Roxanne battles. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like he would give me the records and I would play them and I would just play them out. And then, you know what I mean? Like, and I think the first time I even got introduced to hip hop at all is like somebody played a Run DMC tape. Yeah. And I like borrowed it. And I literally put it in my tape deck and like just rewound it, flipped it over and played it over and over. And I mean, to the point where I just knew everything about that,
Yeah.
So like, yeah, man, it was a surreal feeling to, it wasn't just hip hop, but it was like freestyle music. It was like, funk, like, even like Midnight Star, like, you know what I mean? Just like that era of music was just super nasty. You know what I mean? I was like, it was
diving into that memory, right, as an early child, and it's like going from like you had to have the cassette and wait for it to rewind, or playing the record on with the needle and you might scratch the needle now. Till now it's kind of like you just kind of
instant gratification.
How does that transition for you? Like I know it's been a long time since the transition, but the early days of the transition where it was like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about it, I mean, like I said, like now it's like instant gratification. You want to hear a song, boom. you're like Siri, play this song, but like back in the day, like you had to flip through like cassette tapes and like you had to rewind it to a certain part. You're like, so like, I feel like back then it made you appreciate it more because when you were with that time of waiting, even if it was like, a couple seconds to a couple minutes to where you found that thing, like you were in the zone, like trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? So like, and even having tangible goods, like tangible tapes and tangible records, like being able to read liner notes and who's down with who, because like they would have shout outs on the records, you know what I mean, and the tapes, so like all the write ups, like learning about producers and who wrote this and who you know what I mean. So you kind of like dug deep and you started like seeing patterns, and you started seeing like the names pop up in more than one different genre or different kind of crews, and you know what I mean. You're just like, that dude was on this album too, and this album.
I gotta check it out.
Yeah, like so you're talking with your boys, and you're like discovering different things. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I feel like you had more of a appreciation for the things that are out. Like now, it's just like I said, it's like. I mean, a lot of shit is real bubblegum, you know what I mean? Like, you even got once the flavor is gone, it's gone, you know.
You even got that one app that you just put it close to the sound and it tells you what it is.
Yeah. You got the was
Shazam or something?
Yeah, Shazam. You got to Shazam the song, So yeah.
Did you ever go through an experience where it was kind of like you heard a track back in the day and you're like, can never get a hold of the record?
Oh, all the time, man.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's. Yeah, and then eventually when I became a DJ, like I started like listening to people like play records, and sometimes you just couldn't find those records, man. Like so it made you help. And back then it was like I feel like for the DJs that were playing like tracks that they dug out, and like that was their sounds a lot of times. So so it was like you went to go see them because you knew they were gonna throw some kind of song in the mix where you're just gonna be like, oh shit, I've never heard this,
Some people also forget that at a point the DJ was the act, right? Like you would go and see the DJ get down, and he was kind of like the ooh.
I mean, it's still like that, but it's like but a majority of the places are like I said, reverting to like the bubblegum thing. Like I mean, there's nothing wrong with it either, though. Like the kid, as long as the kids these days are having fun, like that's all. It's really on them. You know what I mean? Like I feel like our age people, we kind of stick to like our era of music or whatever.
I was watching this video on the Instagram the other day where like the kid tells his dad, "Hey dad, I'm gonna play some old school," and the dad's all happy like, "Oh yeah, he's gonna play some old school."
He plays like 2010 music.
And it was a good video though, because it's true. It's really happening right now. So I find it very interesting. Yeah. I wanted to dive a little bit into I believe that your early surroundings, the early people around you, which is your home and family, kind of molds the individual that you slowly start becoming, right? Yeah. How was it for you coming up at home?
I mean, I had a full family, like mom, dad, sister. We didn't really have like cousins and stuff because my mom's from Japan, my dad's from Mississippi. Oh, wow. So we're like in the middle of nowhere. Like, I mean, it's more, city than anywhere else. Like other than my mom's from like Japan, the Yokosuka. So it's not necessarily I guess it's a suburb of like Tokyo, but like San Diego's popping compared to where my dad's from. My dad's from like 800, person like city. You know what I mean? But I can't even say it's a city. It's like in the middle of the country. So it was just us though. It was just our family, So we were a really tight knit family. And then like growing up in Paradise Hills, it's like a very homely and family oriented neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like everybody that lives on the block, we all knew each other. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Whereas opposed to like now, I live in like say Spring Valley, and ever since I moved there in like the early '90s, I never really knew too many people like in the neighborhood other than like the people I went to school with,
Oh, okay.
And they weren't really like my neighbors, you know what I mean? Like they lived in other blocks or whatever, so.
Yeah, it's definitely, a good thing to have the family, having a sibling to fight with or a sister like, hey, get away from me, you know what I mean? So it's definitely an amazing thing, and I think it definitely molds us and as we keep to grow, because I believe like even though when you're older, you stay growing, you stay learning, you stay like exploring new things, and I think it's a good thing to keep to do.
I had real good homies too, like older homies that looked after me. You know what I mean? Like I was gonna get jumped into like one of the gangs out here, and then like the big homie was like, "Yo, man, Chris, like you don't need this shit." You know what I mean? Like, well, you could kick it, but you ain't got to get in. Like, you know what I mean? Because you have a whole family. A lot of these dudes they only have like single parent. Like, you know what I mean? And he just kind of like just whizzed me away, He was just like, yo, you can still kick it. You're the homie, but like, you don't need this shit. You're better than that, And which like I mean, he pretty much saved me damn near, you know what I mean?
It's important. I mean, for me, because I've had the same situations, right, where you have those elders that kind of like see something in you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's something in you, bro. Like, just keep your path and keep going. And, you know, you could be here and be part of the circle and gather around or whatnot, but you don't got to go all the way.
Yeah. You ain't got to get that far into it.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, that lifestyle is definitely something that can escalate very quickly. And from one day to another, boom, something happened, you know?
Yeah.
You know, you say you had mentors that would give you tapes and records, right? But at what point do you kind of navigate yourself into like, I want to dig more into this. I want to be part of it rather than just listen to it.
I mean, it didn't take too long. You know what I mean? Like I said, from getting the tape to eventually even just trying to do moves and breaking and you know what I mean? Like watching people DJ and just being in awe of it. And then, you know, I mean, as I was breaking, I'm like, you know, getting albums where some of the albums had like graffiti on it. So I'm like over here emulating, you know, drawing the freaking Playboy bunny with the B-boy, like, you know, doing breaking with the brick wall with some letters, you know what I mean? Like nobody ever necessarily told me what was what.
Yeah.
But I was already doing the bubble letters and trying to like do a little bit of wild style, you know what I mean? Like, and really doing, cause I was pretty artistic as a child. So like, you know, I'm like fully burning out a page, you know what I mean? Like just trying to copy, like say like the breakdance album,
gotcha,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or like something that I seen, like the wild style, you know, like the mural.
Yeah.
Like I see, like trying to copy those letters and trying to flip them into different letters, you know?
What do you think sparked that in you though? Like, I know you say you were always like artistic as like always doodling and drawing and stuff like that, but to your early knowledge, what do you think sparked that interest in like, I want to start like drawing and stuff?
I thought it looked cool.
Okay.
You know, and like I said, like in school, like they're teaching me how to draw and figure things out. So like, you know, that was just like the next step. It was like, if they're telling me to draw like freaking animals and shit, like I don't need to do that. Like, but I want some cool shit. So I'm gonna draw some cool shit, you know? So,
you know, hip hop being a big factor of, you know, just the development of the culture of graffiti or art and street art in general here in San Diego, right? What do you think set aside San Diego hip hop from the rest of the world? Do you think there was any difference there as far as like talent or maybe just DJs?
Well, you know, I don't really know the early beginnings of a lot of scenes, you know, other than what people tell me. But I think for San Diego, you know, like at least for me, like, I mean, going from Paradise Hills to Spring Valley, like, you know, my area had their own history, you know, and then the South Side had their own history. And it was cool because every time you meet somebody, they have their own little history. So you just kind of learn about each other. You start putting two and two together. And I feel like a lot of things in San Diego are connected, you know, from Southeast to Spring Valley to South Side to North Side, you know, and everything in between. So like, you know, just going from one to the other. And then like for me, like, you know, I didn't even start writing till like 88. Okay. You know, like I was breaking for the, you know, it came and went 83, 84. By 85, it was like, you're doing that shit, you know? And then I would have probably been a writer earlier, but I was kicking it with my boys who were going bombing. Yeah. And I would go bombing with them, but I just was, you know, hit me up. Because I was like scared of my dad. Yeah. You know, my dad was like, yo, you do any of this shit, I'm gonna beat your ass. You know what I mean? So I was just scared, like, you know. So, but it finally, I picked up a can like 88, and then I had doodled my name, and then one of my homies actually took the name because you know those homies that always change their name every couple of weeks. Like I had a homie that did that, and then he took the name that I really liked, and then he ended up just switching his name again, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna fucking write CROS then, you know. Yeah. So that was literally like my first graffiti name. So I wrote CROS, and then eventually like CROS 1, and then like and then Crisscross came out. Oh, and then I was frequenting like the Euclid pits. So that's just like where like all the San Diego writers used to go, like right off the trolley station off of Euclid. Yeah. Where everybody would paint. It'd be like any given time there'd be like anywhere from 2 to like, you know, 50 people painting at a time. You know what I mean? Oh, like, wow, that's a lot of people. Yeah, it was a long ass wall. So, you know, you know, Crisscross because my real name is Chris, so everybody would be like, "Yo, Chris Cross, what up, Chris Cross?" So like the name eventually stuck. That's why like that's pretty much like the only name I've had in as far as writing. You know.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So.
You know, I wanted to take a small rewind before we dive into the graffiti breaking. What was your best move?
My best move.
Yeah.
When I was my backspin when I was a kid. Yeah, backspin was just like super fast, like long. You know what I mean? And then
you have to be type of flexible though, right, to do a backspin because it's kind of. Like,
I mean, you kind of have to arch your back and like so you have like a small little part that you're spinning on. You know, so. And then, eventually, like later, I started back again.
Okay, okay.
So, yeah, there's a whole history there. So,
the graffiti itself, it stumbled across your path through friends, or was it still kind of like album covers related, movie related type thing?
Yeah, I would say like album covers and movies. Beat Street, of course. Everybody was watching that, and everybody wanted to be freaking Ramo and shit. But yeah, like. Yeah, I watched that. So like that was like the early part of writing. I mean, like I said, I never really got down to actually doing it until like 88.
Okay.
And then it escalated real fast. You know what I mean? Like from 88 to like 92, it was just like, I mean, we went from like, hopping all over the homie's fence to go hit the main street to going all county, you know what I mean? And like getting on green signs and getting on freaking high ass billboards and all kinds of shit, So like it escalated real fast.
And in 88, how did the culture look in San Diego? Like, was there a lot of you guys, or was it just kind of like a handful of you guys doing it?
Well, like I said, I just did it with a couple homies.
Yeah.
And then, we started learning about different spots that people were painting and stuff like that. So by like, I would say like 89, like we were going to the Euclid pits, and that's where like everybody kind of networked and figured it out. You know what I mean? Like that's where I seen Dyes, Saki, Quasar, Zodak, like all the names that's coming out and all your stuff. Like and then Days and finding out like where they're living and at the time I was kind of transitioning from Paradise Hills to Spring Valley in the early 90s. So by like the 90. Going to the pits and like finding out that like Spring Valley has such a crazy history. And then one of the guys that were because I used to wrestle in high school. So like one of the wrestlers in high school, this guy Deucer, my boy Mario, his brother was an OG writer that was came up with Saki and all them, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So like just learning about the history, you know what I mean? And all those writers were actually breakers too. Back in the 80s. So like, like it was cool to like just to like learn about all this stuff and just figuring like just putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. Because essentially like for me, like, hip hop in general is just like a big, it's your puzzle board, you know what I mean? And you're over here trying to put pieces of the puzzle together to create this crazy picture of your life in hip hop. And, and then your piece of the puzzle is like the piece of the bigger puzzle, the worldwide puzzle, you know what I mean? So like, it was really cool to like, get a lot of my pieces, in the 90s, you know what I mean? So it was cool.
Would you say there was an early influence as far as a writer for you that you kind of like, damn, that's pretty dope over there. I got to get myself tight and match it.
I think for everybody in San Diego, a lot of people were like emulating like Dyes' letters.
Okay.
And I think, and what's crazy is I know like I've met like writers all across the US that kind of were on the same page too. Like they seen his shit. Like, he did like the original tribal logo.
Yeah.
He did his own brand. He's still doing his own brand, and then his shit was like in a lot of magazines. So like a lot of people gravitated to his letters, and he would go to every fucking yard and just fucking annihilate the place, like he would always do the biggest shit, like, very readable. And then if you wanted to kick in some wild style, he'd get down like that too. But like a lot of it was just like he'd do throw ups all over the place, real nice and clean, and just like his letters were sick,
That's dope, man. That's dope. Shout out to Dice, by the way.
And then also he told me that he used to be actual pen pal. I don't know if you had an interview with him, but he told me that he used to be pen pals with Dream. So him and Dream would always like send Dream from TDK in San Francisco. So they used to send, pictures and pieces, and go back and forth. And I noticed like a kind of a similarity in their styles a lot too, So I don't know if that was because of those two guys, but those two guys' styles for me like really like molded, like letters all over the place. In the US,
and it's fair to say that San Diego definitely brought their own flavor to the culture. Like there was something.
Yeah, we get slept on a lot. I think I come to find out that it was more than likely because of we got kind of overlooked for like the big books that came out back in the day.
Oh, okay.
What was it like spray can art?
Yeah.
And like so they had LA, they had San Francisco, they had New York, but like I heard that they actually had came to San Diego and took flicks, and it was supposed to be a part of it, but like they just had so many cities that they just kind of omitted it.
Oh wow.
I don't know if there's truth to that, but like I mean, I feel like people out here were just as good, if not better, than a lot of the cities that were featured on that that book. So I feel like it spanned from that. Like we got overlooked for the book, and then it just eventually like just led to everything. You know what I mean? But then also like you have like Tribal Gear like really pushed graffiti style T-shirts onto the market, onto the world. And a lot of the writers from San Diego were doing the artwork. So low key, like a lot of people don't even know some of this shit. Maybe some of their favorite graphics are from San Diego writers,
Yeah, definitely, man. What Tribal has achieved in the streetwear culture is phenomenal, man. They've really gone worldwide with it.
Yeah, and then back then too, like breaking had came back in like the couple years into the 90s, and then streetwear had started, and it was kind of birthed off of like putting graffiti letters on or graffiti art onto T-shirts and garments. And this is like nationwide thing, and then you had Tribal, you had like Top to Bottom, you had all the magazines that were out, you had and in LA you had
because Top to Bottom is from San Diego, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Top to Bottom's from San Diego, and then just right up 2 hours away in LA, you have all those brands out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Third Rail.
Con Art.
Yeah. So
and you had the hip hop shop with Hex.
Yeah, Hex. Like everybody wanted to be Hex back in the day. Like I mean his b-boy characters, his hip hop shop, like all that shit like influenced me coming up, and eventually like I had a store out here for a long time, and pretty much it was like part of that, and then part of me traveling to like Europe and seeing like the hip hop shops out there, and also in Japan, like. That's what got us to open up our own shop and kind of do that thing.
What was the name of your shop?
My hip hop shop was Armory Hip Hop Shop. Armory.
Oh, Armory.
Yeah, so we had a brand. We still kind of have the brand, but being Freestyle Session is kind of a big brand in what we do. Like it's easier to kind of like do that, than to do the Armory stuff too. But I mean, I've been collecting like artwork for kind of relaunch.
Oh, so you got a good collection at home of artwork.
Yeah. Okay. We got like seasons, man. Like we were around for like going on like I would say like 12 to 15 years straight that we had a brick and mortar in downtown San Diego.
And you guys sold like hip hop gear and
initially it started as a record shop.
Okay.
And then I came in actually 3 months after it started, and I was already selling like VHS tapes for breaking, and then eventually DVDs for breaking. So when I got part of the store, because one of the owners like got out, and then I got in his place, and I was already doing distribution for like breaking videos.
Okay.
So I brought in breaking videos, and then like distributors that were buying my videos, I would trade with them to like get like graph videos and markers, and eventually we got paint. We're selling Montana, the Spanish Montana. We were getting like, I mean, anything and everything pretty much. And then we started carrying like, hip hop clothes. Of course, we brought in like Wild Style Technicians, Tribal Gear, Dice One clothing, all that stuff. Like, well, actually, back then it was Ruin clothing.
Okay.
And then we were kind of a staple in San Diego, pretty much.
Will we ever see it come back?
I don't know. One day, I mean, maybe when I retire, I'll have a place to chill and open up the shop again. But I feel like just the way the patterns of people, the way people shop, they're just all online. So I mean, as long as we have people have access to all the stuff online, then we're good.
What's the website to Armory? Well,
everything's under freestylesession.com or Armory San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool though, man, having a headquarters and just a spot for everybody to chill. Like a lot of people came up Like there's a whole couple of generations of San Diego hip hop heads that grew up at the Armory. You know what I mean? Like, and we would put people on like to music, like, you know, King D was my manager, so he would be there every day, like just putting kids on that were from they will walk down the street from San Diego High and come over down there and just kind of learn about everything, because he's also a staple of San Diego too, you know, being a legendary MC from LPSD. And then, you know, my other, you know, co-owners were legendary DJs, you know, Steven Flex and Unique. So I mean, we had all bases covered, you know. But
you guys have people from other countries and cities and stuff coming?
Yeah, all the time, man.
Oh yeah,
like, yeah. People would travel just all the way to San Diego just to come to the shop a lot of times.
That's dope.
And then plus, like I was doing my event, so like, you know, they would kind of like make it a 2-for-1 special all the time, you know.
Man, it must have been a great feeling to have the shop, you know, just everybody just coming together.
Yeah, man, I really miss it because you know, like a lot of the people that are owning shops out here now, like they all frequented our shop, and you know, and it was just a real great community to be around. You know, I mean, everybody's still a community out here, but you know, like we actually were there every day. You know, so we were like just entrenched in that community vibe. You know,
like the mecca of just
just we're like here. It's like it's us, San Diego. You know.
What year did you guys close?
Shoot, that happened from like 2003 till about. I want to say I got out like in 2013, maybe 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's been a minute, but not that long ago.
Not too long ago. Yeah, but I mean, long enough. I mean, shit, that's already 10 or 11 years now.
You know, I know there's magazines were a big part of graffiti culture in the early days. Did you guys have a magazine here in San Diego?
No, I mean, Days used to put out a kind of like a mag, but it was like on regular paper.
And it was called Aerosol?
Yeah, Aerosol, I think it was. Yeah. And he put it out on like black and white paper. It was like he would do write-ups of like what's going on, you know what I mean? And then like little pictures. And then, you know, I think he wanted to eventually do it in like full color, but I don't know if he actually got around to doing it. You know?
I got the opportunity to talk to him and he told me all about it and he went deep.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I didn't
know.
It
was really cool, man. And but yeah, just
that's how I found out about the Star production rate.
Yeah.
through those magazines.
Well, I found out about that because some of the homies got pimped up. I just started laughing when I seen you posted that. I was like, oh man, that shit is gonna haunt some of these guys forever, you know, like especially like Saki and a couple other guys, you know. Like,
it's crazy though. So like the sheriffs and detectives come into town, like they're like a filming company.
Yeah, that was. I mean, you couldn't. I don't even think they could do that now because it's kind of like, what do they call that shit when you just kind of like forcefully like incriminating people? But yeah, it was crazy.
But were they walking around with like big cameras and stuff? Like a whole
I don't really know because like when it happened, I was off to like junior college and doing like, you know, I was like kind of transitioned from graffiti to like breaking.
Okay.
Like, and doing sports, you know. So I wasn't doing too much writing unless it was just on my free time. But, you know, like I said, my thick of things was like 88 to like 92. And like I said, this shit escalated real fast, you know, and a lot of the writers were also breakers and in the scene. So I would still see them all around, you know what I mean?
And like, hey, bro, guess what happened to homeboy? What's up?
No, my boy was like, yo, man, you'll never guess what happened, bro. I fucking answered this shit. I fucking went down there. These motherfuckers hand me up. You know, it's like, damn, that shit is crazy.
That's all bad, man.
That's gonna go down as like the craziest shit in San Diego, I think. Yeah, it was pretty wild.
You know, for anybody out there that will watch this interview and doesn't understand graffiti itself, the act of painting graffiti, the act of doing vandalism, right? They might look at it like, these guys over here growing as hell talking about graffiti, right? Because I get that a lot. What can you say to that individual? Like, what did graffiti bring to you as far as like just painting? And being out there?
For me, graffiti and just getting up and just getting out there in general, for me is like, I still have that spirit in me, you know what I mean? But I do it through my events and the things that I put out there, you know? So like, you know, when you're doing graffiti, the goal is to like put your name everywhere, you know? So for me in my business and me throwing events and making an impact in hip hop and breaking, it's like what kind of shit can I do that's just gonna make max impact and like get all these people from all around the world talking about this shit.
Yeah.
And that's the mentality I have, is just straight, all world bomber. You know what I mean? Like whether it be like t-shirts, whether it be videos that go viral, whether it be, events that are just going to be talked about for decades, you know what I mean? Like that's the mentality I have with everything, so yeah, it's to get max attention, like, and it's not like the corny attention, like social media attention, I mean, of course, like having a video that goes viral, like a lot of shit is corny, but like this is some like real deal, like skillful shit like that goes out, So.
Yeah, I tell a lot of people it might look easy on that video you're watching on Instagram, but he had to climb up there and he had to do this. And I also try to express to people like that don't fully understand it. You gotta really watch the letter structure. 'Cause that's what graffiti is about. The letter structure, making letters flow.
Just the flow, and that's what's cool about breaking too, is like graffiti on the floor, Gotcha. So if for me, when I used to break, like, my mentality was like a writer, you know what I mean? Like, how can I make this shit flow? How can I make it powerful? How can I make it impactful? So it's like, that's stuck with me through life, even to this day. I'm freaking 50 years old now, but like, that's my style. My style is to make impact, be big, readable, like people can know what it is, like from watching it, like, so if you see like freestyle session videos online, it's like that whole setup, like there's thought in all of it. There's thought in like going to the event, like for me, like people going to the events, I want them to feel like what I felt when I first got introduced to hip hop. So, and I hope that's what happens. I know you say you went to my event last year, and like that's what I hope that you got out of it, is that you went in there and you're like, damn, somebody that knows what's up do this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
Like,
I was in there and I learned about the up rock dance, and then I seen a bunch of kids dancing, like kids. And when I mean kids, these kids were like 5, 6, maybe 10, getting down. And then you have females getting down, and man, I was just like stoked, bro. And then you had people from all over the world there. Yeah. There's people that are speaking Spanish to me because they can speak English. And
what's cool is you could walk through freestyle session. You could hear somebody speaking Japanese. You could hear somebody speaking like, Spanish to like, Korean to like, Russian to like, like all the different areas, in the world. And you just walking, like what I tell people is like freestyle session is like traveling around the world in one weekend. Like you don't even have to go anywhere else. Just go to freestyle session once a year and you've done all the fucking travel, and you've seen like all the heavy hitter breakers and like all in one building,
Yeah, man. It's like, it's just a dope feeling to be there and absorb the energy. And then also like to see people like Red Bull involved, right? Yeah. Like, damn, that's how far hip hop has got, bro. Like Red Bull wants to be part of this, or the other people involved in this. And it's just like, whoa, it's crazy.
Yeah. We got like Snipes, which is like a, footwear apparel shop.
Yeah.
That's mainly like from like middle to East Coast, I'm thinking that they're probably going to come to the West Coast eventually one day. I mean, we've already been sponsored by them for 3 years.
Yeah.
But, being that freestyle session is the banner event for Pro Breaking Tour, like that's why we had the Snipe sponsorship, And then, we had, Red Bull is always a part of it. And then, like last year we had Jack in the Box. And I'm just like, it's crazy that, Samsung's, Jack in the Boxes, like these kind of names are getting thrown out there as like want to be part of it, I think a lot of it had to do with like the Olympics coming into play, like, last year. But, we're moving forward and we're still going to, retain some of it.
Man, they chewed that girl up, bro. Yeah. They chewed her up, man.
I think she's chewed herself out.
I was like, I get it. Like, I get it. Trust me, I do. But they chewed her up, bro. I was like, she's probably going to never want to hit the dance floor again.
I mean, hey, it is what it is.
How did the whole idea and blueprint come about for a freestyle session?
Well, like coming up in Southern California, in San Diego in general, like San Diego, we had a B-Boy Summit in the early, like the mid 90s. And then there was Radiotron from the mid 90s to the late 90s. So like I came up in that era. So like to me, that was like the breaking events, And then, me frequenting like, hip hop events and like regular hip hop events, like concerts and like clubs and stuff like that. Like for me, that's what the blueprint was, and the blueprint was also like the feeling that I got in the 80s, with all the different elements, because eventually like, each element kind of went off and has their own scene, like you're going to have this thing this weekend with graffiti. So like that's a whole scene like in itself. Whereas in the 80s, like you couldn't have anything graffiti related without all the other elements, Okay. And I'm sure there's going to be other elements in the building, but like, like there's graph events now, there's DJ events, there's, MC events, there's breaking events, there's popping events. So back then everything's like separated now.
Back then everything was as one?
Like I felt like back in the day, like everything was all under one umbrella, Like even like at breaking battles, like back in the day, it was like, a popper would always start the battle. You know what I mean? Like you always had a popper. You rolled with like a DJ. You rolled with some writers. You know what I mean? Like it was like a posse.
Yeah.
Like now it's like it's so like niche. Like the breakers are with the breakers. Like so yeah. It's
and was this Radiotron from LA?
Yeah.
It would come to San Diego?
No, they never came to San Diego. We went up there.
Oh,
and then we like so I met like Little Caesar. And the Air Force crew at the 432F show in San Diego, which is also the same weekend as B-Boy Summit. So they had Air Force crew as one of the guests, and then we met Little Caesar. He invited us to his house. He's showing us tapes of like Battle of the Year and all the dope the B-Boys in Japan with Imperial JBs and like all the Europeans and all the Australians. He's like expanding our mind like. We thought we were dope, and then we see all this shit. We're just like, "Fuck, we got
to step
a long way to go," Like, and then he invites us to Radiotron, and we go and we see people from the Bay Area, all over California, all over LA, freaking Arizona, Las Vegas. You know what I mean? So like, and then we're just all kind of like politicking with each other, and it's just becoming a smaller place. And
was LA the first city that you traveled out of San Diego?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
How was that?
LA, Riverside,
How was that in the early days? Again, guess I know LA was a whole different thing than what it is today. Mm-hmm. So how was it kind of like?
I mean, it was cool. I mean, I was in when I in the late 80s, actually like not even late 80s. So towards the tail end, like I wouldn't even say the tail end. Yeah, it was kind of the tail end of me writing. I got down with SKA, which is an LA based crew. So like. We were going up to LA prior to going to LA for breaking events. We would go up there to like politic with the writers up there, So yeah, so and it was just like an extension of just San Diego. Really, it was just us going to
SK came about while you were down there, or there was already members down here.
There was already members down here.
Oh, okay, that kind of like type of thing. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Something that I wanted to ask you, brother. So, what do you say to those guys that kind of feel like breaking belongs in the streets, and then look at events, kind of like freestyle, like, nah, like, because I know there's those people out there. What do you say to that?
I mean, people say like, what is it like? The organized shit, doesn't belong. But I mean, it wouldn't even be around if it wasn't for the organized fucking shit. Like, like. It wouldn't even came back around in America if it wasn't for organized competitions like Battle of the Year that kind of brought it back to be cool in Europe. Then it became cool in Asia, and then it became cool in America again. And then it's just kind of like a whole like circle, and then from the 90s to now, like, I mean, if it wasn't for organized competitions and battles and videos going out, like it wouldn't be around anymore. You know what I mean? I probably would have been just fucking doing something else, like
it'll be so underground that it kind of like.
I mean, it just wasn't. It wouldn't even be around. You know what I mean? Like straight up. Like people say that, but I mean, dude, like the shit came back around because of competitions. Yeah, it didn't come back around because people said, "Oh, I'm gonna go fucking break in the club." You know. Yeah. Actually, I take that back. When I was going to raves in the 90s, I started seeing people breaking. So I mean. Who knows though? Like for me, it got more serious because of the battle and elevating our skills. You know what I mean? Just like with writing, like people would battle. Like if they had differences, they would go battle, and then I don't know. So like sometimes there was no end to it out here though, you know, like it wasn't like you dapped up and you're cool after. Like sometimes people just were like just salty after,
we're
you know.
beefing for life.
Yeah, I mean that's what kind of drove me out of writing was like 92 to 93 that New Year's I went to LA for a rave and I seen people breaking and I was like, oh, I could fucking break. So I started breaking with my crew. So we had a crew called OSA, One Step Ahead. So all of us were writers. But then we went to this fucking rave and we started breaking again and then started breaking at the raves. And then I discovered, the hip hop side of breaking at a fucking rave that was actually hip hop and fucking techno and shit here.
Yeah.
I mean, we were going to this shit because we just wanted to see chicks, we wanted to pick up girls and like show them how dope we were breaking and then pick up some chicks,
Hey, check
so,
me
like,
out.
Yeah. You'd be like, done, shh. You'd be like, you look for the one that's like giving you the eye,
Yeah.
But and then I went to one where the ravers battled the freaking hip hop people. And it was funny because the hip hop side was a lot of writers that I knew.
Okay.
So like Zodak used to break back then.
Oh,
so
yeah?
he was on that side. And then some guys that were down my crew, Delivery Boys. And, so like, it was there that I met that side, and then I just fucking went to that side after because it was like, yo, you guys are fucking way better than us, and this is more my steez anyway, like so, like it was just fresh.
A lot of people have been asking me for Zodak lately, and I'm just like,
yeah, he kind of like retired, man. He's just Louis now, so
a lot of people.
I mean, if you can get a hold of him, yeah, he's tattooing and stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, he's still nasty. I mean, he's one of those guys that like is dope at everything he's ever done.
Okay.
He was breaker. He's super dope at breaking. Like he was far ahead of me in breaking. Like back when I started back, his writing skills were always top notch. I mean, next level thinking. You know what I mean? Even when he decided to start bombing, he was bombing hard for a while. And then he was doing BMX. He was good at BMX. He was good at skating. He started DJing. He started getting good at scratching.
Oh, wow.
He eventually became a producer. He started fucking with like Canadian hip hop artists and like moving out to Canada and doing artwork for the albums and scratches for the albums and like, you know what I mean? Like, because he was rolling with Swollen Members and man, he's just a man of a lot of talents, dude. And anything that he puts his mind into, like he just gets super dope at.
I just hear he's the type of guy like you really have to know him to know him. Like he's not just going to talk to you.
He's very elusive. That's the homie though,
Diving a little bit into I know we brought up battling a little bit. Is there any battle that kind of stood out to you that you kind of were not part of, but probably just there and watched?
Yeah, the one you guys were talking about, like, Saki and Quasar versus, Dies and Zodak. That was like monumental for San Diego,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on a mission trying to get pictures right now.
Yeah, I think Saki has some. If not, I could probably find some. There's, the shit was dope. So you had the older guys. I feel like the older guys were Quasar and Saki.
Yeah.
And then you had the newer guys who were like my age. It was Zodak and Dies. So like, it was fresh. Like, you heard what some of the pieces look like. Like Quasar's letters are crazy. I mean, even Dies' letters were crazy. And then Saki, I think he was painting something else, and then he like kind of peeked over and seen what Zodak made, because Zodak made a piece of Saki and made like this little red nose, because he has this little red nose, and like he made him a kind of like a character of him like with the red nose, and then he was in a bunny rabbit suit, and then on the side it said like silly rabbit tricks are for kids. I think that's what it said. And then like Zodak kind of looked and he was like, oh fuck that, I gotta change my shit up. So he fucking painted over all the shit that he had at first, and then he put like a piece of like Dies, on a fucking stick or something being burned, Yeah, it was funny. He scrapped his whole game plan because he seen what Zodak was conjuring up. He was just like, yo, fuck that, I gotta change my shit, And then, and Quasar, he just, rest in peace to Quasar.
Rest in peace.
He used to have a shop out here too called No Sellout. And, he was just an OG, man. He was the one that was like, he would drop gems, at Euclid Pits while he was painting, Cats is just asking him mad questions. He was just answering it all, He was doing some shit, and the piece that he did, I think it was Secrets or something.
Yeah.
next level shit. You know, you're just kind of looking at it, just the way it flowed. It was just like, I mean, he could throw that shit up on the wall right now and it'd be like, oh shit, this shit is fucking next level.
Like,
you know?
whoa.
Yeah, and yeah, man. I mean, shit, we're still talking about it. It was like, what, 25 years, like, not like 30 years later, maybe. Yeah, it was probably like in 94, 95, I would say.
How was the vibe there? Look, there's there a lot of people.
It was sick. Yeah, it was dope. Yeah, like I remember the homie Fix, Fix freaking, he downed like two old English old English fucking 40s into the head. He just passed the fuck out. And people were just like, yo, what the fuck? Because he used to hang out with Dice. Yeah. And then, you know, like, I mean, it was just fun, man. Like, and then people were just watching. Like, I think we kicked it there and just watched like all day, you know, like just masters at work, you know? Yeah. So that was big. There was like, I think BSD versus TMK or something like that. Or maybe it was GI versus TMK. I don't know, one of those. But there was also like a UWK versus TMK like bombing battle.
Okay.
Which was crazy because when I first got down at SKA, I would go bombing with this dude Bice, and I mean Bice was like probably top 3 bombers in San Diego, and so I went out with him and like, I mean I fucking went far and wide all over San Diego in one night, you know, like more than I ever did with anybody else. But we were getting up like around that time of their battle, and like it was like sometimes we would beat those crews to some spots, or like we just missed them where like the paint was still fresh, like on a green sign where it's like, oh shit, these motherfuckers hit the shit. So
they just hit
it. You know, we would just walk all the way across the middle and just write our names real small, just be like, yeah, we were there. Yeah. We were there, you know what I mean? Like, and then sometimes we just get the whole spot in the back. But yeah, like it was pretty wild, man. Like,
how was the law out here for when it came to graph? Was it something where like they hated it type thing?
Oh fuck yeah, dude. Yeah. Just like everywhere else, man. Like, I mean, one time, shit. Yeah, one time, because I was like the driver a lot of times. So like, you know, coming up, like I remember, you know, these guys Pest and Khan, they live like they live over by my house. Well, actually, he used to write Knock at first, and then he wrote Khan later, and then Pest. Like they were. So back in the day, there actually was like a top 10 people that got up that actually came out on the news.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like
San Diego news.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like they literally had a fucking top 10. And I just remember one time, but I remember the people that were on it, you know, and I think Pest and Knock were like last 2, like 9 and 10. And then the top was like Ketcho, Choke, which is the same person. And then like Bice was like number 2 or 3. And then it just kind of went down the line.
And they had the actual name.
The writing name, yeah.
Oh, so they were out there doing their homework and figuring out.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But then like, yeah, so it was kind of like, I guess after that shit came out, it was like everybody was on a mission to get on that list, you know, but I don't think they ever put that shit up again because they had to figure it out like, damn, this shit's getting worse now, like after we submitted this list. Like,
everybody's trying to make the list.
Yeah. But I remember that shit came out, and then, yeah, like just meeting people that were on a list, like, or seeing them at Euclid, I was like, oh shit, that's that one dude, you know, like it was pretty crazy. So.
You know, as far as like, I mean, when it came to getting up and you guys' utensils as far as spray can and things of that nature, was it always like a Crown and a Rusto, or did you guys have something else out here?
No, it was always that. I mean, whatever you could rack, really.
Yeah.
I mean, we were, like, I would take out the homies and we'd just be racking, you know, like, I mean, buying paint wasn't really a thing back then. As bad as that sounds, like, I mean, I would take the homies and they would just, you know, I remember like so one of the homies, I mean, he ended up writing Fooey, which he was probably one of the top writers, you know, as far as getting up like in the scene. But that motherfucker used to rack like crazy. Like, I mean, I would just take him, he'd go into like Ace Hardware, walk back out with like 20, 30 cans. Like, like on one swoop. I'm just like, how the fuck you get all that shit? But you just hop in the car, and, you know, he just hooked me up with a bunch of cans for like for driving, you know. But like, yeah, it was, you know. So when we came out with the Armory and we had paint on our racks, like, and people were buying it, it was like a weird experience, you know. I was like, damn, I'm like selling paint, but back in the day, like that shit used to get racked like hard, you know.
No, I hear you, man. Right now I'm going through the same thought process where like Rust-Oleum, actually today, they're doing their launching party for their artist can they're coming out with.
Oh wow, that's like a complete 360 right there.
Which is called Rusto. And a lot of people are talking about it like, you guys hated us for so long. And
Oh no, they fucking. I remember I come from the era where the reasons why the shit's locked up now is because of our era.
Yeah.
You know, like Home Depot, like it used to be all out in the open, and they had to make these little cages, and even like AutoZone, all those places, they was all out on the open, but then they'd have these fucking clear, you know, things that you have to like ask somebody to open the shit for you now. You know, like, but from my era, this shit was all out in the open, so that shit would get racked.
I'm so used to seeing it. I'm trying to picture it.
No, my era is the reason why that shit is locked up now. Like, but yeah, man. Like, but you know, like, and it went further than that. Like, I had a car early on. As soon as I turned 16, I got to use my parents' car all the time. You know, so, but I started riding the. When we used to go to Euclid, I would ride the bus to the trolley and the trolley to Euclid. So like being on those bus lines and the trolley, like that was even a whole nother layer of getting up, you know, because people were scribing on the windows and getting up inside the buses, and then eventually getting up on the trolley lines. Like that like expanded my mind. Like, oh shit, we gotta make sure to fucking rock these fucking lines, you know what I mean? Because motherfuckers are getting up right here. So it was all, you know. It wasn't just paint. It was like, you know, Sakura markers and streakers and fat pilots, and you know what I mean? Like I used to travel to Japan, so in Japan they used to have these markers that are like, you know, those fat ass Poscas.
Yeah.
So I seen those in Japan first, like they were like this fat. So I used to bring them back from Japan, and people would be like, "Where the fuck you get that, dog?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, but this shit's fat, you know." But then eventually, like all these brands started popping up in America, and then, you know, when we had our store, like we started buying the shit, and it was like fat mark. I was like, damn, they fucking made these shits too. Like they literally commercialized fucking writing, you know, like it was pretty wild. It was wild, yeah, man. Like
low pressure, high pressure.
Yeah, even from the b-boy scene, I got introduced to the guys that started Montana in Spain.
Oh wow!
Because there was a whole like drama there. It was like two different Montanas, legal battles. But that's why I said, you know, the Spanish Montana, because that was the OG from what I hear. And I knew the guys, they linked me up with the owners, and then we were getting the shit shipped over to us here, you know? So, like, yeah, it was unreal. Like, when I started selling it, people were like, yo, this fucking, like, because it was like in the beginnings, like, where people were like, finally were able to get it, and they're like, oh man, this is fucking paint. It's fucking making shit easier. It's like cheating. I remember when Zodak first started fucking with like Montana and Belton and shit. Like he was like, oh, "This is like cheating, bro." You know, like he was just laughing because he was like, you know, he was super dope in the era where it was like, I mean, he would get open with a regular cap and get crushed shit, you know. And then when he started, you know, using fucking different tips, he was just getting even better, you know. And then eventually the fucking paint and the million fucking colors that they have, is like it just started getting crazy, you know.
And slowly just started taking over. And I mean,
that's a fucking probably like $1 billion industry, probably.
You know, I mean, the first time I seen a Montana, I didn't think it was gonna last, because I was like, it was a little too high on price.
Yeah, I mean, like $6 a can when we were coming up, like we would find $1 cans and $2 cans, but like I said, like we were boosting shit, you know, so. It was like free 99 all over.
Was Graffiti part of Freestyle Session in the early beginnings? Like, did you guys have people painting there?
In the early beginnings, I would have like, you know, Saki actually did one of my first flyers. Okay. And this guy Stun from TV. And then, and I had them put up like murals. So they were putting up like canvases or you know, big ass pieces of wood with the piece on it. Okay. So I had like a whole section. And actually, like back then, Big Time Magazine would come down and kind of cover it. And that was a magazine from LA. And then like, yeah, we would kind of have that. And then like, I always wanted that element on the flyer. Okay. Because I wanted this, and I still do, because I want the flyer, like when you look at it, you're just like, okay, like I said, when you look at it, you want somebody to be like, oh man, yeah, whoever's fucking doing this shit,
I'm going
is of the culture.
Yeah.
Like and they know what's up. Yeah. You know, so.
And you could definitely tell when it's just everything plastered together to where it's like, whoa. When you get one that's really put together with like the flow and everything, you're like, ooh.
Well, you got all the elements in the scene, the scenery of what it might look like, what it might feel like. My Freestyle Session logo, Dies One did the logo. He did the original. Actually, Hassler did the original logo. It was like more of a tag. And then couple of years into like me having an event, I had hit up Dies because he was doing like all the clothes and shit. And I was like, yo, I want something that looks like kind of like a team thing, but with like a street edge, like kind of, I guess like a gangster edge, you know?
Yeah.
So like he kind of put it together. He started sketching. He's like, what about this? I was like, that looks fly. Because it said Freestyle Session with underneath.
Yeah.
So the underneath is kind of like, you know, I like the Dodger logo or any of those sports logos with the line underneath.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the reason for the line, you know? So like, yeah, there's like thought process through everything, you know? Like
I like the logo, man. I got a tee with the logo. I was like, ooh, I like it.
Yeah, so Dies did the logo and it's withstood the test of time, man. I think he might have did that one in 2002. So it's been like 20 some odd years that it's been
and that's dope that it stayed within like hometown talent, you know? Like,
yeah, I mean that's my network, you know, that's my people. So like, you know, and you know, being able to work with artists like that, and when I had my shop, they would come buy paint, and then we would just network and just chill, become friends more, and you know, having that history of going to the pits and watching them paint, and you know, coming up like watching these OGs, like, you know, then we become friends, and like, I mean, now we have like 30 plus years of history between all of us, and we're all just cool homies, you know?
Yeah, sometimes I tell my friends or people around me, like sometimes relationships are more powerful and meaningful than money. Mm-hmm. You know, you have that relationship.
Well, they say your network is your net worth, you know? So, I mean, it's true.
If you can make that call, right? Like, and make it happen, boom, make the call. Where it's like you can have all the,
I mean, you'd be surprised, man. Like we like, so I'm chopping it up with my team about, because we do like the tour in the US, and then I also do Freestyle Session all around the world. So like, and then when people do Freestyle Sessions all over in other countries, they approach me about it. But now I'm like telling my team, I'm like, yo, there's too many other brands now that are actually actively going out and pursuing partners worldwide. So maybe it's about that time where we start doing that, you know, at least putting the word out there, like, hey, if anybody is of interest to do a freestyle session overseas, come hit us up. Let's politic. Let's figure it out, you know? Because before then I would never really did that. It was more like people would hit me up like, hey, why don't you do a freestyle session out here? And I'll just be like, well, I have to work with partners. Like you gotta want to do it, you know? And then we have the conversation, what I want to happen and what they get in return and what I get in return, and all the happy medium stuff, you know, and what we're gonna make happen, you know, which most of it is like them doing an event, flying the winner to the finals. That's why you see so many different countries representing, you know, and doing them in overseas is just makes bigger noise for the finals. So
I think Graffiti has something similar, Meeting of Styles.
Yeah.
Where they kind of do the same thing.
Yeah.
Freestyle Session, obviously the name is self-explanatory, but is there something behind coming up with that name? Like, does that name mean something to you?
Nah, like, so you know, like being a breaker and even being a writer, like you have sessions. Yeah. Like, you know, we'd have Blackbutt sessions, you know, just all the homies just kicking back, drinking and fucking doing some pieces, or you go to like a club, or you go to like a practice session. So my initial thought was to have my event be called a session. Okay. But when I started mapping it out, and I got a hold of my boy that does graphic design, I was like, look, I'm gonna do this thing called the session. Can you make me a flyer? You know, I'm gonna have this dude do the artwork, and then I just need you to do the typesetting on the back. Yeah. He was like, yo, man, I'm actually doing a fucking flyer for this club called The Session. And I was like, oh, man, fuck. You know, I was like, shit, your name is fucking taken, bro.
They're taking the name.
And then I was like, you know what, man, fuck it. I like The Session, though. Like, so let's just call it Freestyle Session, because every element of hip-hop can freestyle, and all of them session. You know, whether it be a freestyle MC session, or a writing session, or a B-boy session, B-girl session, you know, like even a DJ scratch session, like all elements have the session, the freestyle element, you know? So like it made perfect sense, and it actually just came about because of that one reason, that there was the club was a fucking flop too. So there was I never even got to go. Like I just heard that there was one, never really materialized, but thank God that they had the same fucking idea as me, because I came with the even better name with Freestyle Session.
Shout out the club for the one time. Out of all the freestyle sessions, brother, that you have hosted and been worldwide, is there a particular one that stands out to you to this day?
Both positive and negative. We actually did one in 2004 at the Queen Mary.
Oh wow, my hometown.
Yeah. So we did it there. So the lead up to the event, we were just fucking murdering LA with flyers and posters all over the place. We had street teams and shit, and I guess we fucking ticked the wrong fucking person off at the city council. And Friday night, right before they were about to close, they revoked our permit to have the shit on the fucking Queen Mary grounds, because it was technically it was supposed to be at the Spruce Goose Dome, so we had it all set up in there. They pulled our permit, so we couldn't even have a concert inside there. But one of the homies was actually running the whole place, and he was like, "Yo, man, we could do it in the Queen Mary, though." I was like, "What the fuck you mean you could do it in Queen Mary? That's a fucking boat." You know what I'm saying? Like, what the hell? Like, you never told us that, you know what I mean? Like, because I would have been cool with it, you know?
Yeah.
But he was like, "Yeah, let me show you the fucking, let me show you the ballroom," you know? So we walked in there, and like literally like walking into the boat and then seeing this whole area is like, you know, this top floor is just all like carpet, you know? I was like, "Oh, this is all right." But then, you know, there's like this little stairs that go down like three floors down.
Yeah.
So I peek over the freaking balcony, and it's a fucking checkerboard floor. And I was like, it was like when I was peeking over, it was like the shit was just shining like, oh. And I was like, "Yo, dude, are you serious? Like, is that a checkerboard floor?" He's like, "Yeah, man." I'm like, "Bro, let's fucking move everything in here, dude."
Yeah.
So we ended up moving everything in there in like 45 minutes, and like we had to put like we made like a statement on what happened, and like that everything's gonna be in the boat, and we literally pivoted in like an hour, like from almost being canceled. Like, I mean, we had like, you know, helicopters hovering over saying the shit was canceled. They were putting those signs, you know, on the bridge going from the city to Queen Mary. That was like, "Yo, the fucking event's canceled," you know. But we ended up making it happen, and then fucking we had the shit, and like,
Queen Mary.
and it was huge, man. We had like DJ Cuber, DJ Jazzy Jeff. We had Big Daddy Kane. He brought out KRS-One. We were supposed to have Black Eyed Peas, but their setup was in the dome, so they ended up canceling. And then Black Alicious canceled on us last minute. And then, but we had like Merce. We had Wild Child. Yeah, man, it was like one of the biggest ones we ever had, but it almost fucking got super canceled, and I was about to lose a lot of money. But luckily we ended up making it happen, and yeah, it was like the most scariest event that I ever had, and then it ended up being one of the craziest ones that we
in
ever
the
had,
hometown for the one time.
And actually, we had Slick Rick there too. He closed out the whole shit. So like, I mean,
at that one,
yeah,
damn,
yeah.
so
Been off the chain. I'm telling you, man, it was like a couple thousand people. It was crazy. Yeah.
You know, for anybody out there that would watch us and kind of be like trying to pursue the idea of having an event of that magnitude, right? what would you say to that person?
Good luck. So for me, like, you know, even trying to do that magnitude now for me, like, would be like suicide. You know, like I just don't know if it's there anymore. You know, like, I mean, I guess so, because there's like Rhyme Fest, right? They have the big hip hop thing, you know. But you know, for me, I always encourage events like, let it grow naturally. Don't try to like throw a freestyle session overnight, because it's very hard, you know. Like, I mean, I travel around the world nonstop all year to make the freestyle session happen. Like, you know, there's reasons why the magnitude of freestyle session is so big, is because I'm traveling all over the place. I'm inviting people. I'm, you know, just all around the community, all around the world, and letting them know that this is where it ends at, and this is what the big one, you know. It's like, unless you're doing that kind of legwork, I don't think it can really happen, you know. So like, just let it grow naturally, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, my first freestyle session I threw on the strength of like what we're saying, my network.
Yeah.
Like, I just made some calls, you know, sent flyers out, went to events and passed out flyers, did all the work of actually promoting it in person, and we got like 700 people. So like, I mean, and now it's like, to do a 700 person breaking event these days is like really hard. Like you have to put even extra effort now.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things to compete with, you know, like I feel like we're not just competing with other hip hop events now. It's like we're competing with like, you got nightlife, you got day life, you got hip hop events, you got, you know, graffiti events, you got, you know, DJ events.
Or
like
even guys that are sponsors that can only dance for their sponsors type thing.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of shit that you're competing. I mean, some people would rather just go to the movies than to go to a breaking battle. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, but it just is what it is, you know, but you got to create that FOMO with your event.
That hype.
Yeah. You got to create that hype. So like, you know, sometimes you got to throw the breaking event with a photo exhibition, a graffiti gallery, you know, MC, a DJ, a popular DJ or a DJ crew or whatever, like whatever you have to do to make it to where people don't want to miss it. Like you got to do all that, you know.
Just sit there and start brainstorming, thinking outside the box. Like, hey, if we were selling nachos last year, this year, forget it. We need pizza. Yeah, I mean, like little things matter.
Yeah. I mean, even like having food trucks at a event is like, oh shit, they're gonna have food trucks there. Hell yeah, I'm gonna bring my money. You know what I mean? Like,
and not to mention the insurance policies you have to have, because at some of these places you need like $1 million policy just for the day.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't mean you're spending $1 million for the policy. I mean it's like maybe like a G or something.
Yeah.
But like, you know, but yeah, like a lot of promoters don't even go that far. You know, to get a fucking to get insurance. You know, I mean,
just thugging it out.
So, but like, you know, like for us with my tour. I mean, we get that for all the events that we sponsor. We get the insurance for them because that's part of our sponsorship package for them. You know, so I mean, it's just something that makes it more legit. You know.
And your personal opinion, brother, what do you think has kept that culture of hip hop? And the reason why I use that word, that culture of hip hop, is because, you know, hip hop has had many transformations, right? From like the early 2000s to now. Yeah. And it keeps to change, and it keeps to change, and something else is hitting. But what do you think keeps the breaking and the popping alive and the DJing, in your opinion?
What does it? I think just the community. You know, like we're all looking out for each other. We're all just trying to like pass along the true elements of hip hop, which, you know, from the 80s to now to 70s, 80s now. Like we're just trying to pass on what it. Like for me, like I said, like I want my events, I want you to feel what I felt when I was first introduced to this shit. Okay. You know, like how you said, like, how were you introduced to it? How was you felt about it? Like I want that feeling that you felt like when you think back of like when you first got introduced to hip hop, a lot of times you have a smile on your face, like, oh man, this feels fresh. You know? Yeah. I want that fresh feeling whenever you come to a fucking event, even if it's like the 30th or 40th. You could be 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. If you walk into a Freestyle Session, I want you to have that smile on your face, like, this is it right here. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the feeling. That I want you to feel the feeling that I got when I fucking first got introduced to breaking. You know? Yeah,
and it's an amazing thing, and you know, I thank you for it, because like I said, like me going to Freestyle Session, there's like people that do clothing just for breaking. Huh? And then I found out about this beanie that has this padding on the top that I had no idea existed.
Spin hats,
I was like, whoa, what is this?
And then there's brands that actually just specialize in that.
And I'm just like tripping out, right? I'm just learning everywhere I go. I'm popping out. I'm just like, oh shit, there's so much going on here, but you're just soaking it up. You know what I mean? And it's an amazing feeling. And I suggest for anybody out there that hasn't been to a Freestyle Session, go check it out. And I got a couple questions for you before we get out of here, brother. One, what would be the best, not the best, if not one of the best pieces as far as graffiti you've seen on wall?
On a wall, man. I've seen so many.
One that you would say, that's it.
I don't even know, man. I couldn't even tell you. I tell you though, the Slick and Hex battle, the pieces that they did were, I mean, I still envision that shit in my head. Like,
you were there at the battle?
I wasn't there. I just seen it on like mags and shit that covered it. But like, yeah, those guys were like next level, and it was cool. Like when we opened up our shop, like Slick had his own his This Is It brand. Yeah. So we got to politic with him and become friends with him, and you know, he was like a b-boy at heart too. You know, from Hawaii. So like living in LA now, but you know, like he was mad cool, and then you know, even eventually meeting Hex. You know, after he started coming back into the scene, because he was gone for a while, you know, and yeah, like I think that would probably stick out, like because as far as like the level of the playing field compared comparatively to what was going on in like, say, like the pits,
Yeah.
compared to what they did, was like, how the fuck did they do that? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, like that shit was next level, you know? So like that would, stick out in my head. Like, I mean, now like I feel like the level has done caught up and even like went further sometimes, So like I couldn't even pinpoint it, man. Cause like I said, man, like there's some crazy shit out there,
Man, I see people hanging from buildings right now with rope.
I mean, I've seen freaking a whole like building.
Yeah.
I don't think it was made with spray paint, but like that Shohei Ohtani painting on the side of the hotel in LA, like that thing is fucking humongous. But like, in Europe, like they're actually doing paintings like that.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? The homegirl Lady One, she did a Kobe Bryant piece in LA.
Oh, shout out Lady One.
That
She's cool
shit
people.
is freaking.
She's a big girl too.
Yeah, that shit's like half a mile long damn near. And she fucking took a whole year. I don't know how long she took to do it, but she was telling me it took a long ass time. But like, I mean, dude, I thought I was burning shit doing a fucking 8-foot wall or a 10-foot wall back in the day. But like, she acquired a whole damn warehouse, a whole couple blocks,
Yeah,
like,
I went to go see it, man. That thing is big,
that thing
bro.
is crazy.
That building is there anywhere, I know you get to travel a lot, is there anywhere in the world that graffiti might have been a little different or something stood out as far as graffiti?
I mean, just going to Europe and like Amsterdam.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, like riding the train in Amsterdam, like motherfuckers are getting up, So like, just seeing the different culture, like in America, like I feel like we kind of like lost to the buff for a long time.
Yeah.
Because I kind of you kind of like compare things with the buff, because like if a city just looks super clean, you don't see no graffiti, it's because the writers aren't doing their job right. You know what I mean? So like, and then if we're beating the buff and it shit is just fucking getting crushed to the point where like the people that are buffing shit are just kind of gave up, like that's kind of like how Europe was. Like when I first went over there, I'm just like, damn, there's this fucking. They don't even fucking care to try to buff the shit. They're just like riding it out, like letting motherfuckers just go over each other. It's just like layers of paint, like. But yeah, like like that shit stood out to me. Just riding a train through like Amsterdam.
I'm coming. I got two more questions before we get out of here. One, favorite sneaker of all time.
Favorite sneaker
of all time.
I'm like a Jordan head now, but like back, so I ruptured my Achilles tendon in a fight, and then a year later I ruptured the other one breaking.
Yeah.
But before then, 95 Air Max was my go-to.
Ooh.
Yeah. But now the top of the Air Max like digs into my ankle, so like I can't even wear those anymore. So now it's like Jordan 3. So I would say the top two would be like Air Max 95s and then Jordan 3s.
Gotcha. Yeah. Last question I got for you, brother. What can the world expect from you in the future, and what's next for Freestyle Session?
What's next for Freestyle Session would be like expanding to new countries.
Okay.
Hopefully, I think we're gonna find a new home this year. I don't know if we're gonna find a new home, but try out a new venue and just kind of switch it up because we've been in the same venue for a couple of years now, and just kind of experimenting more. Like. And trying out maybe different categories, like this year we're doing like a 2-on-2 instead of a 3-on-3.
Okay.
And that goes for almost all the categories that we do because we do several categories. So just trying new things and just seeing what sticks. You know what I mean? And then eventually in our third, because this year is our 28th anniversary.
Okay.
So it's been 28 years of doing it since 97. But on the 30-year anniversary, we're going to do a full crew battle.
Oh, crew versus crew.
Yeah. So it'll be like full crew, like 10 people on each side, just kind of keep the content flowing, keep the events coming, Pro Breaking Tour. We're going to be in like 8 different cities in the main events and then maybe like 4 to 6 that we're going to be sponsoring on top of that. And, shout out to our sponsors, Snipes, Red Bull, Silverback. We're just gonna keep trying to elevate, you know what I mean?
Super dope. On top of that, I'm gonna be at the next freestyle session. Whoever mentions this podcast episode to me, first person, I got something special for you. So mention it to me. Hey, I watched the episode. I got you. Yeah. I got something for you. A package. Again, brother, I wanna thank you for the opportunity to sit down with you today. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And Let us know in the comment section. Are you going to Freestyle Session?
Let's go.
Make sure to check out GotNoControl.com. Grab yourself a t-shirt, a hoodie, and so much more. And if not, it's always free to just like and subscribe. Show us some love. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Till next time.
Peace.